a young perspective on hot-button issues around the world. This is The Hub.
Hello and welcome to The Hub. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. Greetings everyone and Happy New Year. Chinese President Xi Jinping has delivered his New Year address, reviewing the year of 2025 and looking ahead to the new year. Summing up tangible progress in the year 2025, he urged solid steps to write a new chapter in China's development in the 2026 New Year address. He also noted that 2026 marks the beginning of the 15th five-year plan, saying a successful venture should start with a good plan and clear goals, and calling for high-quality development, deeper reform, and opening up, and greater prosperity for all. So what can we learn from this year's New Year address by President Xi? What insight does he offer into China's economic priorities, strategic direction, and global outlook? To explore all these issues and more, let's bring in our guests today. In Shanghai, we have Zun Ahmed Han, Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. Also, we have Joseph Mahoney, Professor of Politics and International Relations at East China Normal University. And here in our Beijing studio, we have Professor Xia Lu, Deputy Dean of School of Marxism Studies at Xinjiang University. Now, let me start with you, Zun. Good to see you again. To start off, what do you think are the important messages from President Xi's New Year address?
Wang Gan, firstly, thank you for having me, and a very happy 2026 to everyone who's watching. I think, there's obviously a lot of things that have been covered, from the economy to, the governance system, to how people are being facilitated, and all the way to global governance and much more. So I think, one of the most important messages, and I noticed this even last year, was that there is an acknowledgement of the challenges that the country faces, that we face globally, but there's also, emphasis on how far the country has come. So I think one of the most important messages here is that consistently China has been, meeting targets, and in the process of that, making people-centric development, people's livelihoods, people's betterment a priority. I think secondly, I'd like to point out that President Xi also mentioned the importance of cultural artifacts. Myself, as a resident in China for 10 years, specifically in Beijing, I've noticed that Chinese people are, going to museums, learning about their heritage. They are developing, and they have the kind of cultural confidence and awareness about their own civilization that I hope more and more people globally, especially the global South, has. So I think that was also a very important thing to communicate. And thirdly, there are so many important messages, but I think the fact that, President Xi always keeps the world, global governance, global cooperation at the center. And here he also mentioned, at the Tianjin SCO summit, how the Global Governance Initiative was announced. And this is critical, not only for China, but the world at large, to think about how we can improve global governance, how we can make sure that we are moving forward in a way that is beneficial for us globally, whether it's climate change, whether it's poverty alleviation, the SDGs, and also, resolving conflicts. So many people in the world currently are facing challenges and situations that we don't want to continue, right? So I think President Xi's emphasis on acknowledging those realities, and then saying that as China, as a country, China is going to play their role to make sure that we move forward as a global community in a more positive way. So a community with a shared future, I think that is also an essential part of the New Year message.
Yeah, a lot is at stake in the new year, and China's role is scrutinized by watchers from around the world. Now, Joseph, what do you think are the important messages that you picked up from President Xi Jinping's New Year address?
Well, Happy New Year to you and all of your listeners, and certainly Zun and my good colleague out in Xinjiang. I think that there's sort of two different messages. I think we all realize the president is a very busy person with responsibilities far exceeding our own, and perhaps even our capacity to imagine. As he made clear, we are indeed in times of great opportunities, but also facing significant risks and headwinds. And with these points in mind, I saw a man who took time to greet citizens and comrades, to praise them and the nation's progress over the past year and past 5 years, and to speak of more to come. He was patient, poignant, and poetic. I think when he wished us well, it was sincere. And it was clear that doing this speech each year, as he's done, is important to him. But this year, despite his patience, I also sensed an urgency for him to get back to work perhaps because the U.S. again presses against Taiwan, perhaps because Japan again speaks of militarization, and certainly the need to continue to lead China in its demonstrated capacity to withstand whatever challenges may come, to meet what opportunities arise, and to move forward for the greater good of the Chinese people and the rest of the world.
Certainly a lot of geopolitical developments that we'll keep an eye on in the year 2026. Now, Professor Xia Lu, what part of President Xi's message left a deeper impression on you?
Well, first, thank you very much for having me here, and I wish all of you a very good Happy New Year. Actually, last night's the New Year message address, the most important part that I have impression is President Xi's importance on the high-quality development and also the new quality productive forces and also the innovation and also this kind of technological innovation and its impact on people's life, not only on China's economy but also on people's lives. So actually, he has described a better future of China's economy and also people's life with the help or with the improvement of the AI or the other kind of technology and innovation. So in my opinion, that also signifies the clear direction of China's economic development in the future, not only in the next year, but also next 5 years, because we all know that 2026 is the beginning of the 15th five-year plan. And also that is the kind of the middle stage of China's modernization, the process, the kind of achievement of the modernization. So I think 2026 and also the next 5 years signifies the clear direction of China would be the innovation-driven rather than the traditional or conventional factor-driven.
Talking about innovation, we have to take into account all the factors. Geopolitics and international relations at the heart of it. Now, Zoon, Joseph talked about the sense of urgency President Xi conveys when it comes to resolving the question of Taiwan, when it comes to the deterrence against Japan, so on and so forth. Of course, with the United States, supporting its allies in Asia. What do you think are, would be, let's say, China's diplomatic and strategic moves in the year 2026 and, in the years ahead?
I think that's a very, big question, because again, China is a country that is engaged with the world, essentially, right? I know that back when the trade wars initially started, we were in the second phase of the Belt and Road Initiative, and then China's move in the past few years then has been to further enhance cooperation and expand ties, practical ties, tangible cooperation with the developing countries and the world at large, while maintaining a position, a posture of dialogue, engagement, compartmentalizing outlying issues and, continuing trade and so on and so forth. So I think, that basic direction, I think anyone in the world, when we look at global leaders, the two most powerful countries today are indeed China and the United States. And the messaging from Beijing is consistent that we want to resolve differences. We respect you and we expect respect in return. So I think China will continue to address the outlined issues with Japan. I know that this wave of nationalism is not only being noticed by Chinese people, but the world at large. And now that we've also last year marked the 80th anniversary of the World Anti-Fascist War, it is important to commit to those issues, to maintain those commitments that were made. Let's just be clear on that. So I think moving forward, China will maintain that position to be clear on what are the red lines, what are the issues that are unacceptable and not in favor of the region. China will continue to push for the international legal order, international law. China will continue to push for multilateralism. We have seen the multilateralization of the BRI, the Global Governance Initiative. All of this points to China playing an increasingly proactive, stabilizing and unifying role on the global stage. And this is welcome for the world at large. This is welcomed by developing countries, by regions across the world. So I feel, the momentum, the inertia with which China is playing that role to strengthen the international order and to unite countries to maintain their commitments will continue. And I think the challenges that we face, it's too soon to say what direction things will go in, but indeed, the divisive forces of the world who are upholding the law of the jungle, who think power means they are above the law. Their actions and their intentions are now being noticed and called out by more members of the international community. And I think this is also, China's firm stance that's allowing for a recognition that we are not in an unequal world. All countries need to obey international law and work towards an international order that's favorable. So I think China's position as an upholder of global governance, again, international law, and a country that is not going to accept disrespect, that will call out those who are behaving in a way that's, not favorable for the region or the country. I think that will continue.
Great
but
insights.
It's too soon to see what's
Yeah, the world needs more unity rather than division right now. Talking about the economy, Joseph, let me turn to you. President Xi noted that China's total economic output is expected to reach 140 trillion yuan, that is about 20 trillion US dollars in the year 2025. How do you assess China's overall economic progress and, of course, challenges in the years ahead?
Wang Guan, when we think back to this time last year, when some critics were pointing to challenges in China's property market, youth unemployment, and what many rightly anticipated would be dramatic new economic headwinds as Trump returned to the White House, and these are just a few concerns. People were again, as they often are when they're looking at challenges facing China, they sort of revert to a sort of collapse thesis way of thinking. And we have to ask, I think, in retrospect, where are those crises now? We have largely seen a proactive resolution of the property crisis. There's still some concerns in the property market, but this is very well managed. China was able to stand very, very firm and push the United States back and establish a ceasefire in the trade war. And we have certainly seen alleviation in the youth unemployment market as young people have widened their perspectives on what is a suitable first job, but also as we've seen more job creation. So in all, we had all these risks that many people thought were again going to spell the end of China, and yet very well managed, and as we've seen. Now, there are always new challenges, and I think we still need to advance various efforts to serve the people and create common prosperity, and the president certainly hit upon this theme. We still need to press forward with green innovation and green transformations to mitigate the still growing risks associated with climate change at home and abroad. We still need to reach out as peacemakers while preparing ourselves for possible conflict should other countries continue to press against China's red lines, like meddling in Taiwan, or if indeed Japan decides to return to militarism. And we still need to push forward with paradigm-shifting technologies like AI, while advancing quantum computing, developing and adopting these technologies at speed, which will be disruptive, but will also be necessary for moving forward advanced quality productive forces and innovation and all these other aspects of the economy as we move forward with the fourth industrial revolution. So we see that these will create burdens and opportunities for workers, companies, the government, and so on. And we see that President Xi and his comrades in government are prepared to meet both these challenges and opportunities head on.
Talking about technology, the rapid development of large AI language models and breakthroughs in China's domestically developed chips have strengthened China's innovation capacity. So, Professor Xiaolu, which specific achievements stand out to you the most, that you think hold the most promise, the biggest amount of promise in the months ahead?
Well, thank you very much for the question. Well, actually, although we talk a lot about the AI, the artificial intelligence, and also the AI agent and other kind of the AI generating, the most important breakthrough, in my opinion, in the last year and also in the future in China in terms of the innovation and other kind of breakthrough, I think should be the green development, and also the Chinese government strong and heavy input in the development of the green force. For example, well, last year, in the year 2025, I think most of the people people have noticed one of the news that in Xinjiang there is a very, very big desert called Taklamakan Desert. And actually, the circle of this desert is more than 3,000 kilometers. And China has already done a very great project to circle, actually to, in a metaphor, to lock this desert in order to, let's say, prevent the desert from expanding in the future. So that was a very, very huge achievement in the people's improvement of people's livelihood. So the people's, the counties and also the urban centers around this desert, they got a better, living standard. They got more and more forest. In almost all the cities kind of around this desert, I've been visited a lot. I see that the people enjoy this kind of better life, and people, applaud to the development of this green forest. So, in the future, well, China would definitely invest a lot in AI and other kind of technology. But also important is the green force, is the green development, and that would be the basic for China's modernization and China's model for other developing countries.
I think the Green Revolution is really part of China's larger campaign of setting itself on a different set of models, emphasizing high-quality development, deepening reform, and opening up. So Joseph, in talking about China's economic transition, what areas do you think hold the most promise when it comes to implementing this high-quality development strategies?
Well, the thing that I've been focused on, and I think we all talk about green innovation and green development, and we know that with green transformations, both in terms of what China is accomplishing at home and abroad, that China is the global leader here, and that this is vitally important in so much as climate change does pose existential risks for all of humanity, but especially the global South. But the thing that I'm really interested in personally, in terms of the research that I've been doing recently, and from some of the recent developments, including one that President Xi mentioned, really two, but they go hand in hand, is the establishment of the free trade port in Hainan, which will drive not only greater regional integration with the Greater Bay Area of Hong Kong, Macau, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Zhuhai, all of these areas, but bring Hainan into that equation in ways that will not create sort of the zero-sum concerns that some critics have raised, that maybe we'll see Hainan developing at Hong Kong's expense or other countries' expense. Rather, if you're really developing, if you're really growing, then you're creating a bigger pie, not just carving up the same pie. But I think the thing that we sometimes neglect is the extent to which China has really innovated regional integration and cooperation, and I think GBA has been the best example of this globally. And now Hainan, with its strengths, including its relative underdevelopment, is being brought into that picture. And this is really going to create some incredible opportunities for developing the domestic market, but at the same time, connecting in new ways with the global market, and certainly Southeast Asia, the ASEAN family of nations, among others, where we see so much growth and development potential already well established.
Well, Professor Xia, this is interesting. When Joseph talked about the special customs operation in Hainan, making it virtually a free trade port for global services, goods, data, and people to flow more freely. Do you see that as a new pilot of institutional reform that, if successful, can perhaps evolve into other areas of China?
Yes, thanks a lot for the question. Actually, we have seen that in the 15th five-year plan, the suggestion, the resolution of the fourth plenary session of the 20th Central Committee, actually it's very clear. It says very clear that in the future, the opening up project of China, or the China's opening up, will be, let's say, wider and, let's say, more comprehensive, and it will embraces the international rules, and it will also construct to the international rules, international order, and other kind of aspects. So I think the Hainan Free Trade Port, the opening or this establishment of the Hainan Free Trade Port, will be the first step and the first solid step in this contribution of China to the international order. Not only this kind of international world order, but also the international kind of business and international trade order. So China is now doing its best to build a better future, not only for China itself, but also for other kind of developing countries, and also let's say, countries and people who are, let's say, looking for a better life. So in my opinion, in the future, yes, definitely this kind of institutional innovation and institutional, let's say, breakthrough will be, let's say, a very good step for the modernization, not also for China, but also for other world.
Yeah, we've seen successes of China, experimenting with free trade ports, special economic zones, and now the special customs zone in Hainan. Hopefully that can be replicated and scaled in other parts of China, if not the region. Now, Joseph, President Xi in his New Year address also talked about China's global role, increasingly robust and proactive. When you think about the SCO summit in Tianjin, the global leaders meeting on women, and the launch, of course, of the special customs operation in Hainan towards the end of the year. How would you characterize China's role on the global stage, and what would be your hope for China's continued role in the year ahead?
Well, I was reflecting on this earlier today. Why is it that China appears to cherish peace so much, and why do we see conflict sort of perpetually coming from other sources? And one of the things that I reflected on, is since its founding in 1921, the Communist Party of China has sometimes suffered setbacks, but it's never been defeated. And the same is true of China since liberation, undefeated. And not only this, China since 1949 has not only established a new paradigm for modernization, it is by far the most humane, progressive, and successful. What other country or political system can claim comparable victories? Now, these experiences, I think, correlate with confidence, and we saw that confidence in the president's speech, and not fear, not a worldview that reduces development and security to zero-sum games. When we see rent-seeking, mercantilist foreign trade policies from the U.S., when we see other countries rushing into war, whether given their established paradigm or merely reactions to the same from others, what we see is fear. Now, peaceful relations really come from confidence. Peacemaking comes from the same. And if you know that you can create your own success without defeating others, if you know that you can create more success by working well with others, and if you know that perpetual conflict is the road to ruin, then you understand why China cherishes peace. You understand why China is pushing forward with a multipolar world, why it's committed to multilateralism, why it's experimenting with new forms, more progressive democratic forms of multilateralism with the SCO+, with BRICS, and through various efforts like the BRI. China recognizes that reform is needed in the international system, but it's not advocating, it's not pulling back, it's not undermining that system. It's fully committed to a human progress and a shared future for humanity. And this is where China is really, I think, offering the world really a profoundly different alternative, one that can achieve peace and development for everyone.
Yeah, of course, China's role is anticipated in the year of 2026 when peace talks is on the horizon, potentially a deal in Eurasia. Hopefully the conflicts in Gaza can be resolved as well. Now, do we have Zoom? I mean, Zoom, if you're with me. But for the moment, I think we have Professor Xia Lu instead. And Professor Xia Lu, looking ahead to the year 2026, the year actually we're currently in, how do you see the global landscape evolving?
Well, actually, I think we are now should be cautious about at least the two factors that will be negatively affected the world order and this landscape. The first one is extremism. The extremism not only in the so-called ideological field, but also in terms of economic policy making and this political setting. This extremism actually has a very, very strong, let's say, impact in almost everywhere. That's the first thing. The second is irrationality. So in my future, in order to build a modernization, ever since the Industrial Revolution, almost 300 years, actually the human beings have made a lot of progress and achievement in rational thinking and rational, let's say, policy making. But this kind of irrationality and irrational thinking is still there, haunting us. So, in my opinion, in the year coming up, the 2026, we should overcome these two kind of factors. The first one is extremism. The second one is irrationality.
Extremism and of all sorts and irrationality. So, Joseph, what would you caution against in the year 2026?
Well, one of the things that we saw in the U.S. throughout this year was saber rattling in Congress by, the rebranded Department of War officials who went to Congress to say that China was preparing to have the capacity to invade Taiwan in 2027, and that this was going to justify these massive arms sales, which were contrary to previous agreements, including the agreement in 1982, that the United States would, through time, decrease both the quantity and quality of weapons. Nevertheless, I think what we saw this past Monday is that China is ready to do that now, but it's China's self-discipline, it's Chinese restraint, it's China's desire to achieve peaceful unification and not to be goaded into a conflict against its own people, because the Taiwanese people are the people of China. This is what I think is something that we have to be very attentive to, given the recent developments, not only from the U.S., but also from Japan. And I think this is foremost on the mind of policymakers in Beijing, certainly as they consider those risks in tandem with the recent deals that they struck to hold back with the trade war with the United States.
Yeah. I want to thank all of our guests, Professor Xiaolu, Zun. Sorry, we wish to have you more next time around. And Joseph, thank you so much for being in this panel. And everyone, Happy New Year. Bye and take care.